So we just heard from Erica Barnett about the power structure and how it plays out on a single issue like housing affordability. But whatever issue you're concerned about, it could be economic opportunity, crime, education, these same conduits come into play. Organizations, networks, laws and rules, narratives and ideologies. Looking for these, thinking about how these relate to one another, and seeing the ways in which they form a lattice work, a power structure together by influencing one another and by having relationships move across each of these conduits. This is the way we begin to see differently the nature of power in any community. There's actually a great website that illuminates some of this. It's called littlesis.org. And it's Little Sis being the opposite of Big Brother. And the idea of littlesis.org is it provides all of this data and visualizations and resources to map power structures, both at local levels and nationally. And you can go to that website, but just think in these terms about how these connections play out and how the connections are going to be different from issue to issue, neighborhood to neighborhood, region to region. Thinking in systems, thinking in these ways, and being able to see these maps of power is just elemental if we want to be able to change the power structure. Well, every episode we take questions on social media, and one of the things that I love doing is hearing these questions because, as Stephen Eisland asks us on Twitter, sometimes they're pretty big questions like this. How important is the role of vision for cities? How can we guide citizens to think big and restore their confidence in tomorrow? You know, on one level, that's a question about leadership. We need leaders, whether they are elected or not, who can articulate a vision that we can all get behind or feel that we're part of. But frankly, because of the nature of this show and just our work, we believe that this is more of a bottom-up question. It's about us, the citizens, generating vision together. And we've got to get out of the habit of just being spectators to other people's vision and learning how to come together in small groups at the level of the neighborhood or the community or our interest group. Small groups where we talk about what does it look like to have a vision together? What is our vision for a more inclusive Seattle? What is our vision for a more inclusive society? What kind of place do we want to be when we grow up? And those conversations, cell by cell, circle by circle, will add up and roll up to a bigger sense of vision that our leaders can ultimately follow. Our second question on social media comes in on Facebook from Rebecca Lane, and it's another great one. What are the current shifts in power that you're seeing due to gender politics? You know, on one level in our society right now, this is a time of incredible opportunity for women. In politics and business, in all different domains, women are in greater positions of voice and visibility and power. At the same time, there's been a lot of emphasis lately about how women have to lean in and how there's a lot of burden on individual women to speak up more for themselves, to be more vocal. And I'm all for that as far as it goes. Women should be greater advocates for themselves as individuals. But the thing about lean in is that sometimes it can obscure the larger structural dimension of power. And our whole topic today of power structures comes right into play. As much as you might lean in as a woman, the reality is still that organizations, networks, laws and rules, and narratives and ideologies might still be stacked against you. That whole lattice work and array of power might still bend toward preserving the privilege of men. And so for all of us, whether we are men or women, we've got to take a closer look at the power structures and the ways in which these conduits still preserve privilege for men. Until we can get around that fact and change that structure, we won't truly have gender equality in politics or civic life. Well, we love hearing these questions from our viewers, and we want to encourage you to communicate with us in every channel you can. You can get us on Twitter at our hashtag CitizenUTV, or at our handle at Seattle Channel, or just send us a simple old-fashioned email at contact@seattlechannel.org. We love to hear from you. This episode has been focused so much on the question of power structures. And I know some of it has been about maps and concepts and these big ideas, but I just want to close by bringing it back home. Think about where you live. Think about who runs not just your town, but your neighborhood, who has say. Think about seeing in systems and learning to map things this way. Every one of us has a responsibility to develop this sight and then to share what we see with others. And when we do that together, we can change not only the power structure, but the very practice of power in our city and in our country. That's it for this episode of Citizen University TV. I'm Eric Liu, and thank you so much for watching.